Oh no, I've broken my Michael because I spoke too loud into it.
My Michael.
I gotta be
It's
gentle with Michael.
Michael B. Jordan's he's a picky bitch.
Did you hear that when he took his shirt off in Black Panther, some girl bit through her retainer?
Yeah, I did hear that.
That's fucking... Fuck that guy, right?
Is that your new body goal? You want to be that attractive?
I don't know. No, I don't even want it. I don't even want to. I'm fine the way I am. Everything's good.
Jesus Christ.
Don't want to change a thing. My mom said I'm perfect the way I are. Okay, we got that. How you doing, man?
Doing okay. What about you? How's shit been?
Hey. Oh, welcome back, everybody. I was going to...
hang on, before we even get started, how many interviews have you done in your life?
You know, it's not worth talking about.
It's gotta be more than me. How the fuck?
Well, they okay, so they have the intros figured out. They're like, hey, welcome to K-Rock 9422 or whatever, and then they jump into shit.
That's too many numbers, but yeah, okay.
They have their fucking intro, and then I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. If you listen to any interview I've done, there's always like a little bit of like, hey, like I don't know, thanks for having me or whatever. But when I'm the guy driving the ship, I just run it headlong into an iceberg. So there's not really.
Yeah, well, my favorite thing is that you'll be really quiet and then you'll go, hey everybody.
The hardest part is starting, so I just jump.
Yeah, you gotta lead into it. So what's up, man? You were gonna say something and then I cut you off.
I forget. What were we talking? We were talking about some specific. What was that? Oh god damn it! It's not worth it. But yeah, no, I gotta clean up my way of starting things because I kind of have a thing for my own personal channel, but that's not I don't want to carry that over.
Right.
I tried to record last week. I had noticed oh fuck, we don't have anything, and I started to try and record something by myself just to kind of ask the audience a thing real quick or whatever. And
yeah,
I had started over 7 times or something because I just could not fucking. It's hard when you're not bouncing off of someone.
Oh yeah, it's hard to just talk by yourself, definitely.
Yeah, and the whole beginning of it was I don't know how to have an intro when I have a friend next to me, and much less when I'm by myself. That was I need to, so I just ended up scrapping it. But I mainly wanted to. The whole point of that for me was to try and I wanted to get the audience to give, to comment. The 1 or 2 people who are checking it out. I wanted people to comment what the way they process things, how they process things is, because I've been being very self-analytical about the way that I process life and shit, and the way that I kind of discovered tricks to navigating socially and shit. And that's been it was really weird to kind of see how different that was from everybody else. So I'm kind of curious, in certain situations, how people's experiences are, how individual they are, separate from ours. You know what I mean?
What do you mean process? What do you mean how they process something?
Well, it's been going to me and Mimi have been really kind of diving into our relationship and trying to figure out where we miss marks and shit. And it's been interesting to see how very dramatically different our way of processing life is in general. I'm a very exterior person, external. I obviously voice my shit whenever I'm thinking about it. That's the way I kind of
extroverted.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Not socially, but
100% socially extroverted.
But with myself, my own brain and shit, I have to expend all of that energy in order to understand it. And for her, she keeps it internalized until she understands it, and then she says it. So,
I get what you're saying. So you're saying if you have a problem to work through, you will talk yourself through it out loud.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
I need to hear myself say how I feel in order to really understand how I feel.
Right, yeah, it makes sense. It's you kind of, you use the space in front of you as kind of a desktop, and then your voice is papers, and then you kind of arrange them. Yeah, I gotcha.
Which results in a lot of I didn't mean what I said situations, but I at least know that I have said everything. I'm not holding it back or whatever. I don't know. And it's been interesting to see her whole thing, and we were talking with another friend who does the exact same thing, is that she doesn't want to say anything she doesn't mean, so she will just she'll kind of marinate in an idea or a problem or something until she really understands it, and then she'll voice it, which is interesting.
Right.
I can't operate that way. So when I have a problem, it's you want to talk about it? And she's like, no, of course not. And ooh, but that makes me die inside. We have to talk about it.
But that's gonna fucking kill me. I need you to meet me halfway here.
The idea of that is more disturbing than I could fathom in comparison to just saying what you're. I just want to know you're immediately thinking something right now, and you're not sharing that. You're just you're keeping it from me. Tell me.
That's a funny, or not a funny, but an interesting topic of conversation. That's like, when you think about something, is there a narrative? Like, is there a voice in your head, or is it just a series of pictures?
For me, it absolutely is like I can hear myself kind of navigate my thoughts. Like,
is it your own voice?
Yeah. And I'll picture scenarios in full, like, color. Like, I'll have like the whole picture play out in my head. What I'm thinking, instead of like, I don't know what the alternative would be, I guess, but just I guess more instinctual. I don't know. I'll picture things in my head more.
Yeah.
Are you that way? How do you process?
Yeah, I process shit with like it's a big stream of words. Like, I'll be like, well, if I'm gonna do this, then I have to do this, and to do that, I have to do this, and like it's literally my voice talking myself through it in my head.
Yeah.
But I asked Erin about it, and she says that she just kind of has like a string of thoughts. Like, there's no weaving line of dialogue that connects them all. She just has like separate thoughts in her head, and then from that she uses it to form an opinion. But mine is like, well, I feel this way because of this, and I feel that way because of this, and because of this, it makes me do this.
I do the same thing. It's very kinesthetic. Like, I have to like navigate through the way I'm thinking about shit. And it was interesting because I was talking to my sister, who has two. This is, this, but the audience isn't, I guess. I have two nephews, and they're kind of in the process.
Learning disabilities.
Yeah, they're on the spectrum more or less, and they're in the process of getting like special help for how they process shit. And it's like I'm very similar to them. Like, the more that I've grown up and kind of watched them process things, I'm like, oh, that's exactly how I did or didn't understand things as a child or whatever. So it's like it's been interesting to see them kind of, or at least everyone around them, learn how they understand the world.
Right.
And then seeing how that relates to me or doesn't or whatever. And I was talking to Ashley, my sister, and she was saying that for her, she's got like, the poor girl's got like 5 autoimmune diseases and shit. So like, she's got a lot of stuff that's like bombarding her senses and her brain at all times. Specifically MS. And she was saying like her brain works kind of like a Dewey Decimal System, like in a library where you'll have like drawers full of words that when you pull up a card with the word on it, you can see books that are relative to that word. You know what I mean? Like, there's it's a filing system that should have a specific order. And so when she's given a concept, she will go into her files to try and find how she feels about that or what's relative to it. But because of all of these things, they're kind of out of order, and she pictures things in a way that is very personally emotional instead of like logically associative. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, her brain really needs to.
Right. So instead of like, she uses emotions as kind of like a stepping stone to get to places where her logic and her brain is lacking. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And it sounds like those things are often jumbled because of all these things that kind of are hitting her brain. And
weighing on her mind all the time.
Right. So she'll kind of emotionally respond in a way that a lot of people on the outside don't really understand, but for her makes logical sense, but she can't really articulate why,
Right.
Which I found fascinating. And so I was kind of like ruminating on that, like, how do I process shit? Like, what's my brain like? And I learned that I process things the exact same way my youngest nephew does, which it's more like, I guess the only way I could describe it is like YouTube, where you kind of input one word into YouTube and then you'll see
the auto fucking what do they call auto suggestion?
Yeah, but then when you hit enter, you will see just an unbelievable amount of things that gradually get less associated with that word. But it's like a crazy amount of information that is all associated with this one thing, and you're given like all of these resources for that. And so like my brain will associate one situation with every situation that's similar to it, if that makes any sense. So I was talking to my mom about that, and she's like, "That's PTSD." It's basically, and this is a thing where like, because of, it's mostly common with kids with like traumatic childhoods actually, but it's like a thing where if I feel something, if I'm going through a situation and it's somehow similar to a situation I've experienced in the past, I won't just feel that one situation. I will relate it to that past one, and I will feel both things at the same time. which is fucking crazy. It's super interesting to think about, but it's like every situation kind of builds on top of each other, and it's a common thing with people with ADHD too. It's because you don't just experience stuff that happened in the past as if it was something that you're just over. It sometimes feels like it's presently happening at the same time as something similar to it. So your brain's kind of running through metaphors while you're experiencing shit, which is why the emotions are so fucking intense.
Yeah, that is interesting. I guess like it's hard to come at it from my perspective because, yeah, like you were talking about, whenever anything happens to me, it's just like, oh, this is like that thing before. But right. I don't. It's just a separate thing. Like it's not. It's I guess loosely tied to something that happened before, but I don't experience the same emotions.
Right.
Except like unless it's like fear or something. Like if I'm riding my motorcycle and I'm like almost wrecked, and I'm like shit. Like,
yeah, but you're feeling every other time you almost wrecked.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I process everything. So if it's an overwhelmingly positive thing, then I really feel great about it. But if it's like a really negative thing, it goes that much deeper because I'm feeling every negative thing that's similar to that. It's like I'm finding metaphors within my life and seeing, comparing things from now to things in the past.
Right.
And it all feels like it's interesting. Presently happening. Yeah, it was super, super weird to kind of like figure that out. So I've been curious, like, how do people outside of me, like I'm very curious how people process life and like what they experience when they're going through shit, or like what tricks they have socially to feel more comfortable when they talk to folks, because that's a really big thing. I think our generation.
You gonna share some tips? What do you got?
Well, I mean, this is just me like externally, like that thing all over again. I just talk way too much, but I realized that growing up, I felt as if I knew. I felt as if I was totally on the outside of everybody else, and that everybody kind of had something that I didn't. And so I felt really kind of like outcasted from the rest of the world for some reason. So I was always most comfortable by myself, and just kind of resolved to the fact that I don't understand other people or whatever. And then at some point in my adolescence and into like adulthood, and I believe it was when I started to lose weight, and I think that corresponds with these things, but I realized that I kind of felt like I got it. Like I know how people work, which is just
right
arrogant as shit. And I think it came from a place of like people were responding to me in a stronger way than when I was chubby, because people don't look at chubby people as much which was a really frustrating realization for me after.
Well, yeah, because you have like a frame of reference. You're like, oh, well, shit, when I was a nobody, that was like this, but now I'm losing weight and they're acting like this. So it can only be in these parameters right here,
Right. And I kind of felt like I understood most people's shared experiences. And so when I would get into social situations, and this was up until recently, I felt as if I at least acknowledge the situation itself, that will create a safe space between me and the person I'm talking to, and they will immediately feel more comfortable with me as a person. So it's like a trick to win people over that I would use when I would go into meetings or go on dates or whatever. It's like to acknowledge the situation you're in is to create kind of a bondage between you and the person you're talking to. Not bondage.
I don't know if that's the right word to use.
You're
a bond.
You're creating this like mutual understanding of each other in the situation. Yeah. It's like, oh, this person gets it. They're not just blindly operating separate from me. It's like, and it's also kind of this like outsider thing. You're kind of saying like, I'm not like the other guys. We talked about that.
I was about to say this is what you talked about last week with the person at the Michaels or whatever.
Right, and I think that's just kind of how I initially sort of tried to relate to people for a while was to if I was in a meeting, I would always start it with like, I hate beginning meetings. I never know where to go or whatever. It's what I do with the intros and the podcast. It's like by kind of owning up to the shortcomings of a situation, you are creating trust.
Building a buffer zone, kind of.
Right. It's like you both feel this thing, but most people don't talk about that thing, and so you're kind of showing the person you're with, like, hey, I'm like you. We can relate on this. I'm a safe person, and I've found that actually creates a lot of trust in people. And that's been a really clean way for me to bond with folks. And it's not just so blatant as like I'm going to acknowledge the situation, but it's like there are other ways to kind of maneuver your way into earning people's trust by acknowledging some like real life shit that or whatever. And I just recently, I think because of all of these like diagnostics and stuff that I've been going through and like going to different therapists and like just kind of being very self-analytical about the way that I work and process life and stuff, I've really had my like reality shaken and my like trust of my understanding of things. And so now I'm like, well, shit, I don't get it. I really don't know how people work. I can't claim to have all the answers about what actually creates comfort in people or whatever, because I don't know in myself or whatever. So it's like, I'm curious, like, what people, how they process life and social interactions, and like, you know what I mean? Like, because some people are more natural in those situations.
Right. Or social just by design.
Right. And can they explain why they are, or why it works better for them, or like why certain tasks are easier for the majority of the world, but for like, you know, people like with ADHD, it's like, oh, this doesn't produce serotonin, and so I don't enjoy the situation, so that's why I don't like it. But like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just so fascinated with the way people function now, and I'm very curious how the general public processes things, because I'm at a loss lately about like, well, what is it? Like, how is there any shared experience in reality that I can get back to understand everyone as a whole? But I don't think there's an answer to that. I think the more realities I understand, the better it'll be to operate in the real world in general. But yeah, sorry, it was kind of rambly, but that's what I was trying to articulate when I was sitting down last week to like record something by myself, and I just realized like that's too complex of a thing to actually like to ask the general public, like,
how does your brain work, and what were your experiences that led you to think this way? You're like, fuck, dude, I came here for the Let's Plays. I don't know what any of this is about.
Yeah, it's like that as a concept in my brain feels like understandable, but to try and word that is so much harder.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of like, not to paint anybody with a brush, but it seems like most people in your day-to-day life probably are not introspective enough to really tell you why they think a certain way, or what experiences led them to think a certain way, or how their brain really works. It seems like whenever I ask anybody about like, how do you picture this or that, you know, like they'll get really, they don't get defensive, but it takes them a minute to kind of like spin up, you know. It's like they've never really thought about it before.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, it makes sense. It's really a luxury to have time to sit around and go like, well, why do I feel like this? And then like, why does my brain work like this? Whereas most people are like, the rent's due in 6 hours.
Yeah.
And I've got no fucking money.
That's true. Yeah. I wonder if that's why me and Mimi differ so much on that, because her whole life has kind of been fight or flight, like where she's like, she's always like worked jobs and has had like weird tumultuous relationships that have just been kind of like trying to make it to the next day, basically. So I don't know. I mean, not to say that she isn't a very thoughtful, introspective person, because she definitely is. But I think I have had most of my time is spent trying to understand myself lately. So I think that's just a priority of mine, to really like kind of dive into the processes and the why of them and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even as kids and, you know, adolescents, we were always thinking about like, I think we kind of had a more, I guess, an environment conducive to self-analysis growing up than most people, I would say.
Yes.
And that we would just, like, most of my and Jamie's childhood was either, like, playing video games, which looking back was kind of a minority of the time.
Yeah.
Most of it, we would just walk around and talk about how we felt about shit and what was going on. You know, so, like, we would be out at 3 a.m. on like the golf course behind Jamie's parents' house, just talking about life and shit. So I feel like, you know, when you have those experiences when you're 10, 11, 13 or whatever, you know, it kind of sets your course for the rest of your life to always have kind of like a step back you can take and be like, well, why do I feel like this? Or what's making me feel this way? Or, you know, like, why does my brain work like this? That most people probably just from, you know, growing up and do the regular teenage stuff, they didn't really have a chance to explore that in a situation where it was, I guess, socially acceptable to do it. And again, you know, like most people wouldn't have a friendship where it's close enough where you can be like, hey, you want to walk around on the golf course and talk about your dreams and
right, yeah,
what makes you a person? You're like, no, what? No.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think this might sound weird, but I feel like most people our age at that time period were probably like dating and shit too a lot more.
Yeah, and we were fucking losers, so we just had a lot of time to do nothing.
That sounds like what I'm saying, but I think that I don't think in high school or middle school relationships or whatever, you really dive into that kind of stuff because you're just so busy trying to keep them around in a lot of ways, because it's like,
yeah, well, you're playing a part, really, you know,
right. You can't be yourself. Whereas you and I built up this rapport of like, here we are, let's understand this and shit. And I think we also had childhoods that were like, the families were so distracted with their own stuff that we were kind of like left to our own devices a lot. And it was like, okay.
Yeah, that's fair. You know what? Thinking about it, That is true, because we most of our time was spent without parental supervision, and I feel like that probably allows you to kind of, nobody's gonna tell you what to do or how to think, so it's like you kind of I don't want to say blossom because it sounds fucking like Weather Channel hippie shit, but like it allows you to kind of grow into a different kind of person when you are left to your own devices to talk it out with somebody who is like really coming from the same like viewpoint as you.
Right.
So it's easier to walk through, because like, if you're going to talk to your dad about something, like he can give you good advice, but he's got all of his experience built up, so you're not on a level playing ground, But you and I, we lived in the same neighborhood, we went to the same school, so like to put those two people together, it was like just kind of like ping pong stuff off of each other. And even when we worked together, like on separate, like we worked in the same building but on separate projects, but even then it would be like, well, let's go see what Jamie thinks about this, and like we would kind of ping pong shit off of each other there.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, we have this shared experience. I think that's probably pretty rare for a lot of folks, and especially to have the disposable time.
Yeah, definitely.
For different reasons, I think our parents, we were lucky to kind of not be kind of pressured into doing a lot of school activities or going to like get an early job or that sort of thing. And my folks in particular were just kind of like, they were just kind of like dealing with their own tornado of problems and shit. And so it was just kind of like, well, if you're not upset, then that's good. So go outside, and that's probably the best place for you to be. So like,
right. He ain't heard anything. Let him walk around.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that we had this really unique childhood experience of just kind of being left to our own mental devices, because there was nothing else really to worry about other than like, not worry about, but like to think at length about, and like, why do I feel the way I feel, and what's the purpose of life? And I think we had those conversations pretty early.
Yeah, it's like nothing was really direly pressing on our mindscape at that age. It was just kind of like, what how do you feel about this? Like, okay, cool. How do you feel about this? And so it was kind of,
yeah, or it was that our brains were trying to protect us from whatever was going on at home, and so it was like,
yeah,
let's think about the life
knows?
as a whole. Yeah. So it was,
well, that's interesting, because I don't know if this is too embarrassing for me to bring up, but we used to we really escaped into literature and writing and like art early on. Like I feel like, obviously a lot of teenagers get into like literature and stuff like that, but like we would write, like even when we weren't writing, we were like constantly creating like these deep worlds and shit.
Yeah.
So maybe it was really just like an escapism thing. Like maybe, you get more into your own mind and you don't think about like external shit. So yeah, it could have been that.
I think that has a lot to do with it too. It's interesting because like last year I had this like big awakening in my brain where like a situation happened that I'm not going to go into, but like the situation happened where someone in my family was like, here's a situation that you think you know about. That's not what you experienced. Here's what you actually experienced. And my brain realized that was the truth, but it was like hiding from me for years, which was really fucking crazy. Like I always kind of did the H3 thing and like made fun of people who were like the idea of being triggered or whatever. Also, but like there was this moment where it was like, oh fuck, that's a closet that I had locked in my brain, and that's like the door just swung wide fucking open. And so, yeah, I think that for me anyway, I think that there was an escapist thing for sure, because it was like, don't think about the stuff that we probably know is pretty fucked up. So here's the truth, here's something else to think about or whatnot.
Right.
Yeah. But we were constantly, and it sucks that we never actually we never got to the point of actually writing the stuff down and creating tangible things, but we were constantly making stories and talking about stuff. So it's interesting. Yeah,
it does really suck missing that train, because we were making videos and dude, I've got some of those videos. They will never see the light of day.
Yeah,
but I've got a lot of these videos. We were making videos in like 2003, 2004 when we were 13 or 14.
Yeah,
and it's just like, when YouTube came out, it was like, well, shit. We were doing this.
Yeah,
it was the same thing that happened with like the Let's Plays too, because it was like,
oh yeah.
I saw like one of the earlier guys, I don't remember his name, but it was in like 2008, and I was like, oh cool, I could do this. I like Let's Plays. or not Let's Plays, but I like video games. And then, me and Jamie can talk about a lot of different stuff. And then, life gets in the way and you're working. And then like the big financial crash happened then and it just got pushed to the wayside. And then it was like, well, shit. Like,
we just like look behind us. All this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's so many things that we could have done, didn't do. Shit.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think that kind of like FOMO experience is sort of what everyone's going through right now with Bitcoin because everyone heard about it at the beginning.
Fucking God. Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, I almost did that and I didn't. And I know you especially have a situation with that. But it's that same sort of like fear of missing out situation.
I know, dude. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't even want to fucking talk about Bitcoins. Jesus Christ, that was a bummer.
Yeah.
But it's like the worst part is that like my memory of almost buying the Bitcoin is so I could tell you what was on the television.
Oh man.
I can tell you like what I was smelling. I guess my brain for some reason thinks that if I remember it hard enough I can just go back. Like why are you putting all this effort into remembering it? It's useless information.
I do that shit too, man. Well, I think that's it's weird because it's almost like a form of PTSD in a way. It's like your brain's like this sucks, think about it.
Yeah, I guess it made more sense when it was like, hey, I almost got mauled by a tiger.
Yeah.
Let's remember everything that happened there and look for clues. So if that shit happens again, we can get the fuck out of there.
Right.
But there's not going to be another situation where I'm sitting at my computer at 2 a.m. reading about something called Bitcoin and having $200 in my bank account and hovering my mouse over the add to cart button and then bitching out at the last second.
Oh man.
I know, Jesus Christ.
Fucking A, dude.
Oh boy.
Well, on a lighter note, what have you been into lately? We'll start this conversation earlier.
Yeah, I have been watching something. I don't know what the I can never remember the fucking, like, every time when I watch it, I'm like, I should remember this for the podcast, and I fucking never can. And the worst part is I've turned off history on my YouTube, so I can't even, like, what was I watching, Hang on.
Why'd you turn it off? Are people, like, are you afraid people are going to see, like, what you've been watching, or, like...
Well, I just don't like the concept of it, like, a Google having, I'm sure they still keep it.
Right.
But it makes me feel kind of better.
I don't want to see that they keep it.
Yeah, I don't want to see the list that they have. That makes me feel kind of weird. What was I watching? Did I watch a bunch of shit? Let me see. I should turn my history back on. I was watching. Have you ever seen Captain Disillusion? He was on the H3 podcast.
Oh, dude, fuck yeah! Man, I love Captain Disillusion. I've been like mad for years about how like unappreciated he is. So it was really cool to see him on the podcast.
Yeah. I watched him for a long time before that. That's gonna sound like, oh, me too. I saw him before. You remember? You and me both.
I think you showed him to me a long time ago. It was like years ago, but I remember. I think you like posted on my Facebook or something. I was like, shit, this guy's fucking great.
Yeah, he does a lot of really cool shit. I think he's very interesting the way, and he's like crazy talented in, kind of like matching the visual effects and seeing how they're all put together.
Yeah,
I say this in like every podcast, but just like. The idea of breaking something down and seeing how it works on like a finished piece of media is super interesting to me.
Right, and he's telling it in such an original way. That's the most impressive thing to me. Like when
and all the work that goes into it, man. It's like he goes in and like deconstructs. Like he had a making of video where he showed it was like a 5-second little throwaway bit with like a laser pointer and a cat, and it took him like fucking 2 days. Like he had to like rotoscope out all his shit and then like add the cat in, and like he faked a laser pointer and he had to like track it to the wall, and it's just like, god damn, dude, the passion that it takes to do that kind of shit for like a pretty small audience for the time.
Yeah,
it's just like, god damn.
Well, that's the kind of thing that I don't think I had. The thing that fascinates me about a lot of YouTubers, him in particular, is that like original format that he's found, like and he started like a long time ago doing. It's
like 2007, man.
Yeah, and he's been doing it this like super original idea like since, and it's crazy to me that it hasn't been copied or like I don't know, it's nuts. He's got something super unique.
Yeah, I think it hasn't been copied because it's a lot of fucking work.
Yeah, true.
They're like, I ain't doing that shit. Fuck it, I'll do another video essay coming up.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of video essays, that's kind of my. Not to cut you off. Did you have? Was there?
That's it, dude. Please save me from this.
I think for me, like I've been watching this dude. I was hanging out with my buddy Goose Johansson and Eddie Burbank, and
it's someone else very famous.
Hey, Hot recently. Boys, talking to Hot Boys. They told me we were sharing like what are you watching lately, and they told me about this guy named Nakey Jakey. I posted it on your Facebook wall. I had no idea what they were talking about because describing it was hilarious. It was like, yeah, I used to just like regular video essays, but now he sits on a medicine ball in front of a green screen and he does video essays. It's like, okay. But when you watch it, it's a fucking riot. Like that dude that dude is so fucking funny. It's insane. I've been watching his stuff for the last 2 days straight. Like and that's another thing where like his format is so fucking like he sits in front of a green screen. Literally, it's what it sounds like. He sits on a fucking medicine ball in front of a green screen. He's like poorly keyed out of it, and then he bounces.
He plays
around.
the recorder.
Yeah, he plays the recorder,
like keyboard,
and he'll rap sometimes about shit. But like, it's the editing is fucking impeccable. But I really love that dude's shit.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I wish what that's an interesting topic. What is something that you wish you were better at, like so far as like art or anything like that?
Oh man, I mean, I think in general, I wish I was better at like focusing and dedicating my shit. Like when I would start something, I wish I could like really like hone in on it and go like I could never do what Captain Disillusion does.
Yeah.
But as far as like an actual ability, I wish. Man, I don't know. That's a hard one because it's like narrowing down a specific talent is really hard, I guess, because I wanted to sing. I feel like I've gotten to a point now, and it's a lazy thing to do, but I got to where I wanted with my singing voice, and I was like, man, this is probably maintainable now. I'm not gonna work hard on this.
Good
anymore.
Enough.
Fuck
it.
That works.
Yeah.
I feel like I've done that with a lot of different things, where I'm like, this is good enough, and I don't really have any use for those talents either. So it's like,
right.
If I could improve my like stamina bar or whatever in a certain area, I don't know.
It's freestyle rap, right? Freestyle rap.
Probably what it is, mostly just beatboxing in general, I think.
Yeah. Do you have a freestyle rap maybe about some sort of food object that you could crank out right now?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I
maybe
chicken, rotisserie chicken. No.
That's it. Yeah, come on. Don't let him fuck with you guys. There's so many more verses.
Somewhere I'm surprised that it's not. I mean, I'm not surprised it's not anywhere. But we were shooting Blair Witch, and there was this. He wanted to get some like extra footage of us just kind of like meandering through the woods and having banter and stuff, and
being friends.
Yeah, just make it look like you're real friends.
Right.
And B would start beatboxing, and we would just try and make up raps and shit. And luckily, I had some in the pocket already.
Of course.
But it was so contrary to my character that there was no way they would ever use it.
Yeah, they couldn't really work it. You were like a by the bones or by the book, like EMT, like looking for your lost sister. And it's like, hell yeah, just tear out a rap about Greek salad or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I have a genuine rotisserie chicken rap that I don't think is in any context not embarrassing to do.
It's actually my ringtone when you call me. It's the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, you have a few of those too, right? Like you had one about Sonic. Oh, shit. You had one at one point. I can't remember. I think everybody kind of like invents little raps and shit that they do when they're like, I don't know, putting laundry away or something, and then like
yeah. That's like it's fucking. Well, I wrote one about Resident Evil like 10 years ago that I can't remember.
That's probably what it was. I knew it was some video game.
Yeah, it was like. Do you remember when nerd rap was a big thing in 2008, 2009? I had aspirations. I was like, oh, I could do nerd rap. That'd be sweet. And then I was like, actually, no, let's not do that. You know what? Like, I'm pretty early in my career to be this far down the embarrassment well. So just put that one in the back pocket and never take it out.
It's funny how many things you like. I think you jump in like your head. You're like, this is gonna be a fucking knockout, and then in practice, you're like, maybe I shouldn't have started this at all.
I know. I like that. Like in practice, just means like I said a couple lines out loud, and then I'm like, "Ooh, no."
Oh yeah.
Let's not go this far.
What I like about like Watsky, it's mostly slam poetry. Like his stuff. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's like doable.
Have you seen that Harry Mack guy on YouTube? Harry Mack.
Harry Mack. I'm not familiar.
You've seen him. He's the guy that does freestyles. He like sits at the Santa Monica Pier and he'll like rap about whoever's walking past him.
Oh, I might have. Yeah.
He
I've
is
seen him
very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool underground rap shit on YouTube that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, like, that's how Dicky started. Little Dicky, like his shit's so fucking good, but he's kind of like fucking A-list at this point. It's crazy.
Does he have like new stuff coming out? Like, I only heard that one album from like 2016.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, surely he does. He's got so much exposure now.
Assuredly,
there's more rap coming on.
Yeah. Shall we go to the Raporium this weekend?
Play that Little Dicky fella.
You been to any shows lately, man? You remember we used to go to shows every fucking weekend?
All the fucking time. my tinnitus wishes I hadn't done those things, but yeah, that was fun as shit. Like, I forgot about that until you brought it up a while back. Because in Atlanta, we would go to the Masquerade, and across from Masquerade is just the definition of gentrification now. Like
now.
Yeah, and they closed down the Mask, and it was such a fucking cool place. Like we were there like every weekend for a while.
Yeah, it was seriously. We would drive up, and this is, if you're anywhere near Atlanta, this is going to be a very familiar story to you. You would drive up, you would park in what was called the Murder Kroger.
Yep, yeah.
Which was where 4 or 5 people had been murdered over the years, so they just called it the Murder Kroger.
Right.
You would go into the Murder Kroger, and you would get a huge $1 jug of water.
Uh-huh. Or an energy drink that would immediately feel like it was rotting your teeth out.
Oh my god, it was such a bad idea, dude. So you would get your poison of choice. You would jump the railing onto North Avenue, then you would cross like 4 lanes of traffic and walk through like this. It was so much graffiti, dude.
Oh my god.
Like just a destroyed fucking like an under the bridge area.
Yeah.
And then you would walk up to just this dingy fucking, it was a cotton mill, and it was painted solid black. And it had been there for like 100 years at this point. And you could smell a cigarette smoke from way off, and you could hear the music from like the Kroger. Like when you would get out at the Kroger, sometimes you could hear the bass all the way from there.
Yeah.
So you would go all the way down, wait in line to get like your ticket at will call. They'd like slap a little bracelet on you need to be in. And like from the second you open the door to get in the Masquerade, like not just bass is like filling your entire fucking head.
It's such a fucking build up. I used to love that shit, cuz like right before you'd get up there, you would pass all of the like vans, or no, the buses, like the band
the
buses.
tour buses. Yeah.
It was like this one like, here's some warm air coming out from underneath the buses because it was freezing outside. And it was like, you're gonna you're gonna hate yourself later because you're gonna be so fucking sweaty. So like,
oh my god, yeah. So you get in. We had to learn the lesson eventually, and if you go to a lot of shows, and you show up about 30 minutes after the band that you want to see is supposed to start playing, and then you'll probably only have to wait like an hour.
Right.
But we used to show up at doors because we had nothing to do when we were like 19. So and you can't drink there.
No.
So like we're just sitting around waiting. I've got my $1 water, and so like eventually you're just hot and sweaty, and the bands that open up fucking suck. And you're so ready to see this band that you've paid like $20 to see or something. And then there's just a huge mosh pit, and we would get pushed up. They used to do this thing. I guess they still do it at shows. I haven't been in like a pit in a while,
Yeah.
But like, you remember it would feel like just the will of God wanted you to be pressed up against that fucking gate at the front.
Yeah.
It would be like 400 people pushing you into a gate. Like,
yeah, well then those fucking subwoofers on the other side. So you have the crushing from behind, and then in front of you was just like nothing you were ever like. I think legally they aren't allowed to let people as close as we were to the horns.
Oh yeah, dude, it was just infinite damage, just right to the fucking side of your head.
Oh yeah, it's fucking that. But that was fun as shit though. I love that.
Yeah, just to set the scene. So there were 3, but it was usually one of the 2 areas in the Masquerade. And I guess it's still like this at the new one. I don't know. But there was heaven and hell, right?
Yeah.
And purgatory. I don't think I ever went to a show in purgatory. I think it was like a bar or something.
I went to purgatory. There was a huge. I went to see Foster the People, and I don't know if this was purgatory or if this was an entirely like a 4th place, because I always thought purgatory was across from hell. But there was a backyard to the Masquerade that was like this huge fucking venue, like you would see at Six Flags Over Georgia or some shit. And that's where Foster the People played. And that was unreal. Like that was huge. Like, everyone grab blankets and, have a picnic while they watch the band play.
What the fuck was this nice shit? I never saw that.
Yeah. I remember I was like, this trail to the back of this place was here all the time. Like we went to go see these fucking ska bands who never got the chance to play the big stage. So,
yeah, serious. But yeah, so like usually the shows would be in hell, which was pretty nice because it was cool. It was like underground and it was like cinder blocks and shit. And the floors were solid, and this is an important point.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're getting to.
Yeah, and but sometimes the show would be in heaven, and heaven was the Masquerade was an old cotton mill, right? And heaven was, I guess, where they would load cotton onto trucks. So it was a big plywood floor, right? And there would be these huge speakers like ratcheted to the ceiling, and they were just free hanging, like hanging from like orange ratchets, probably 20 feet in the air. And at the shows that me and Jamie would go to, which were mostly like punk and ska shows, because it was, you know, like 2009 and we were just out of high school, there was a, you know, you would just jump around. It's kind of what you do, and there would be mosh pits, and basically everybody's jumping in unison all the time. And you would feel the entire venue, like the floor would go down probably like, I don't want to be dramatic here, but I'd say like 2 to 5 feet every time people would hit. You would feel the whole floor like dip.
No, that's fair. And, that's very true.
Like, and if you timed your jump right, you would like catch air. It was how intense it was. So you're in this pitch black room. There's like fucking fog and smoke filling it completely. You can't hear anything. Your ears are ringing. There's drunk people all around you. There's fucking like day glow stuff happening because they've got black lights.
Yeah.
The music is too loud to think. The floor feels like it's gonna fucking fall out, and you're sweating buckets. It is 500 fucking degrees in there. And there is no personal space. Somehow they have crammed 7,500 people into essentially the size of a garage, and you are just pressed right up against everybody that you ever lived in Atlanta with.
That shit's fucking great. That is the most accurate description of what it's like to see a show at the Masquerade I could ever imagine. That was fucking great.
Oh my god, dude. I think about that shit all the time. I love to go to the Masquerade, but eventually it came to a point where it was like, this is my like 20th show here. I kind of want to go home.
Oh yeah, I remember they would be like chanting the band's name after they would leave the stage for an encore, and it's like,
you're like, please no.
They always like fake like show's over, and then they come out and play their like big hit or whatever, and I would always like I want to go home. I'm so dehydrated.
Yeah,
I'm sweating on a girl that would never talk to me. I have to leave.
I'm about to go spend $100 I don't have on merchandise I don't need.
I'm gonna get a wristband that I'll have to justify the price for by wearing it all the time.
And then it came, oh my god, but like coming out of the Masquerade into like the January like 2 a.m. afterwards, god, it was like fucking, it was an orgasmic experience.
Yeah, dude.
You're like, fuck yes, this cold air is great.
Cold. Yeah, man. And then like your ears would ring the whole ride home and shit. It was fucking great.
It was to the point where like it was one of those situations where you'd be laying in bed afterwards and it would feel like, you ever spend all day at Six Flags like riding roller coasters and shit, and then like at night you're laying in your bed and it still kind of feels like the roller coaster. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that situation. Like you would like sway with the crowd so much that like kind of you would remember it later on.
Yeah, that shit was so fucking cool. Like I wish I kind of miss that, but not in a way that I want to go do that as an adult right now. I miss being in the mindset of like, this is a thing that I'm really excited to do. I'm gonna go do it and have a ton of fun, and it actually being as fun as I thought it would be. And then, but like as an adult now, it's like whenever I go do anything, my brain is like, when is this over? How much longer can I go? Do I have to be there before I can leave? My ears hurt. Is this going to be, am I going to smell bad? You know, like I'm always like panicking about stuff as an adult now, but like back then I could just like go and enjoy shit blindly.
Yeah. Back then it was like, this was the highlight of your night, you know? It's like nothing was going to be better than this. Yeah. Let's go see this shit. And then like you could hang out outside the Masquerade and sometimes you'd meet the bands. Like we got all kinds of shit autographed and we got like pictures with members and all kinds of stuff back then. And then you'd toddle over back to the Murder Kroger and buy another $1 water and then drive home, even though you were scared to drive on the interstate.
Yeah. Honestly, it's a miracle that we never fucking died. Like, we could have gotten mugged at the Kroger. We could have fucking fallen through the floor. We could have had one of those speakers or some of the cotton material fall on our heads. We could have like anything could have gone wrong. But like somehow we survived that entire experience every time we went.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, you know, like at 18, 19, you're not even thinking about it. You're like, fuck yeah, that was a cool show. And then you're out. Like, you don't think about like, God, I could die. Like, I could die 10 times tonight.
Yeah, I miss that blind enjoyment of shit. Because as an adult, I'm always analyzing stuff now, and it's just not as fun.
Yeah, the invincibility feeling is, it's well missed on my end, you know?
Yeah, it's super weird too. Like, oh man, I'm looking at the Google Maps right now of what the mask looks like. When was this taken? You can always see October 2017. There's still a Shaky Knees Music Fest thing going on.
yeah, they left that big poster up.
Yeah, it's such a cool building. It's so fucking rad. It's it's 697 North Avenue Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia, if anyone wants to go look this shit up. But if you like go down the road just a touch and look to the right, there's this big fucking industrial, like faked to look like it was there for years and then abandoned kind of building.
The Pond City Market.
And it's fucking great. It's nice. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I dig it. It's just like, it is. I kind of get the whole like why gentrification's super weird thing, because it feels odd for that to be like a safe part of town now. For some reason.
Yeah, it does feel really weird. You remember we were there one time and we saw a guy like he was right. If you're looking at this on Google Maps, the hill before the Masquerade is pretty steep, and we saw a homeless guy one time just tearing ass down this hill on that shopping cart. Do you remember?
Oh
that?
Yeah, dude. Oh fuck, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, you can see the construction. There's like that time period of your life. I think when you're like your frontal lobe is still forming and shit. Those things are so much more enjoyable than when you're an adult and slowly breaking down.
Yeah, true.
I just miss blindly experiencing shit, for better or worse, like that, because now I'm so analytical about things that it's kind of hard to really enjoy everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, it does suck. It's like it feels like you're. I got nothing. I wound up like I had some profound statement.
See, that's what being an adult is. It's just like I can feel the failure happen before it even happens.
Yeah, Jesus.
But it's I don't know. I kind of hate that I didn't do anything crazy during that time. I mean, I still haven't really done anything crazy. Like I feel like everyone's got those stories of like getting drunk or high, or like having weird experiences with like LSD and shit. And I don't know. I never did anything super crazy. And if I had during that time period, I can't imagine how visceral and like important that shit would have felt. I didn't have those those moments.
Yeah. It is weird. It's like back in the day, like around that same time, I was really into like skateboarding and longboarding and all that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of stories where like, we'd be like, sometimes we would just meet up and just drink beers in the back of the truck and then like go skateboard all night. And it's like, the cops wouldn't do anything if they caught us, hopefully. But like, you kind of have like that remembrance of like, man, we used to like get drunk in parking lots and like run from the police. Like that shit's fucking crazy, man. Like to do that stuff now, I'd be like, what are you fucking doing?
Yeah, I think about that. I mean, I don't know. I guess I've always had, as an adult, I can't do that shit. And on principle and on, I don't know, I guess personal morality, I haven't really done anything crazy, which I think is the responsible thing to do. And it's like for my betterment as a person and for a better future health wise, it's a good thing that I never got into that shit, because it's in my family to like fuck with it too much. But
right, but then part of you is like, but
I missed out, and I can't do that again. I can't go have fucking crazy nights with all my friends all experiencing the same new shit together. Like everyone's kind of over it at this point because they've done it before.
Yeah, that is kind of depressing, actually.
I've missed out. Like that's something I've been having to accept lately. Is like there's a whole side of life at that age that is for that age that I didn't get to experience.
Yeah, true. You're like doing dangerous shit and running from the police and smoking cigarettes and taking drugs.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I was tipsy for the first time a couple months ago.
Yeah, you're like 27.
I'm 27. I fucking yes. I get kind of sad thinking about it. Like I don't know, man. Like there was a time period where I could have had some like really visceral like shit, but I was just like home like trying not to get caught looking at hentai. And it's like I could have done both these things.
God damn it! I could have smoked weed and looked at hentai.
Why didn't I grab grass and also Google zombie boobs or whatever?
Oh no!
Do we talk about that?
That's a story we can't. Well, that's up to you.
No, we can't. No, we shouldn't. For the person that's referencing, we shouldn't talk about it. But
yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Oh my god! Yeah, no,
it's a hilarious story.
I kind of wish that I had these like this sinful time period of disappointing my parents and like doing weird shit. But I was a pretty like clean kid,
straight laced. Yeah,
and and it was for responsible reasons. It was like I knew that my family's always had problems with like substance abuse and shit, so I was like, fuck it, I won't do that. But it's not like I did anything better instead. So,
yeah, that's the thing. It's like they don't really tell you that in school when they're like, don't do drugs, but all the cool kids are going to be doing drugs and they're going to remember that experience for the rest of their life.
They're going to have a lot of fun doing it. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I know.
And if you don't do it, you'll just go to church and not have fun.
Yeah, you're gonna. What do you think's cooler, smoking weed with your friends or going to youth group?
I don't know, man. Youth group's pretty hardcore.
it's pretty sick these days. Crank up some Reliant K.
Man, Switchfoot.
Youth pastor got a new Stratocaster. He's gonna let me play.
Can't wait to go to fucking camp during summer and play acoustic guitar next to a bunch of white people. And just talk about how we fucked up recently because we looked at some hentai and that's bad, but it's okay. We'll do better next time, but we won't.
Oh my god! There's statistically a 0% chance of me doing better.
It's
next
not
time.
going to get better. Just everyone,
I'm 14. I have no chance.
Everyone guilt each other into not doing things until you realize you should have done it because you missed out.
Yeah, just guilt each other into pretending that you're not doing the things that we're all doing.
But like, I thought everyone else was also boring. Was the thing. I didn't realize that all my friends were like partying and shit. Like I think everyone thought that I was like really judgmental because I was like in, and I to a certain extent I think I was because I was like a super church kid or whatever. So I didn't get to, nobody like invited me to do cool shit. So I hate that I just missed out on all that stuff. I don't know, and I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I'll just go fucking try it. I'll go.
Yeah, I mean, you could.
Yeah, but what's gonna happen? Like, I can't do anything like super dangerous, or I don't know if I should be searching for dangerous, but like,
right?
I don't.
You
know.
Can't do anything like as wild as you would have done in those times,
right? And like, because everyone's always known me as the kid who has never done drugs or been drunk or whatever, it's like gonna feel weird for all of us for me to start doing that shit, and everyone be like, oh, yeah, he's changed. Or something.
Well, you know what? The funny thing is now, number one, you're not a kid anymore. We ain't kids.
Yeah.
You're a man. Like we're men now.
True.
And number two, nobody really gives a shit. Like,
yeah.
The older I get, the more I find that like nobody cares what you're doing. They're too busy thinking about what they're doing and what they missed out on.
That's
like they
true.
don't give a shit.
Yeah, I think there's just a piece of me that's always been this way and feels weird at the idea of not being this way. Or, not that this is a defining piece of who I am or whatever, but like,
I get what you're saying. It's like, it's always been like a part of you. It's like, I do this and I live like this. And like, it kind of feels like if you try something new, you're almost betraying that part of you.
Right.
But like,
exactly.
It's something that I don't want to speak for everybody, but like, when you first start drinking, I was, I think 17, 18 when I started drinking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like even then, it's like, ooh, geez, like, is this, can't go back from here, like, oh, what's going to happen to my morals at this point? But like, it's not a big deal, and especially, I don't know, it might be different doing it as like a full grown adult, but at 17, it was like, oh, well, and this is fucking nothing. Like, I'm still the person I was. I do this extra thing now, Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would like to hope that it would be like that, but I also think it's just going to be me embarrassing myself in front of all my friends who are going to assume I have a problem now. Because it's like fun when everyone's doing it together, but when it's just one 27-year-old, it's like that dude he drank 14 hard ciders and now he is loose.
Oh boy, you would not be loose. You would be passed out in the front yard. 14 hard ciders.
I don't know. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. I'm like, well, maybe fuck it. Maybe I'll just try it. And then like, I don't know. My grandpa was a drunk and he hit his wife, so I don't know. but I also know that my like core beliefs and who I am as a person would ultimately not. I wouldn't sacrifice any of that shit. No matter what state I'm in. So I think I'd be fine. It's just that whole like
a weird hurdle.
It's just like a weird mental struggle. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll try it. I just figure at this point I've waited so long. There has to be some really cool circumstance for me to try it. Like, it has to be filmed, or I have to be like in the middle.
You got to break your streak or something.
There's got to be some really cool story with it. Like if the first time I smoke weed is with Snoop, I'm all over it. Like if I meet Snoop Dogg and he's like, "You want to hit?" I'm saying yes. I don't care.
Yeah, true. Boy, that would be a hilarious first experience with weed.
Oh, dude, totally.
With fucking Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, man. So I don't know if I try at this point, if I go fucking raw dog on some substances, it's got to be a good story. Because I can't just be like, oh, yeah, I got sad as a 27-year-old and sat in my living room with a couple of my friends who were embarrassed for me. And
it's no big deal, man. It's like next time you're back, we'll fuck around with it if you want. It's not anything to worry about.
We'll see. I have to navigate. I think I have to like mentally get through that and shit. Like I was talking to my therapist about it because I think I have weird hang-ups that I'm really embarrassed about. Where it's like I put this thing in a box of like other for so long that it feels kind of strange to humor going into that box. Yeah, and he was like, you need to find some gray areas with shit. Like it's okay to not do that stuff, but find a reason to not judge yourself if you were to,
Yeah.
And that's what I've been like. I have a little wine with Mimi here and there, try and understand that world and stuff. But like, my taste buds are also like a 13-year-old's, where it's like, this is bitter, gross, or whatever. This isn't Sour Patch Kids. So I think if I do it, I gotta either ease into it or just go fucking hard all at once with a cool story. I don't know.
The way to get into drugs is not hard all at once.
No, I'll be fine. Don't limit me.
Don't worry about it. You're not even my real dad. All right. Anyway, before the end of the podcast, we were going to talk about there's a cat situation.
Oh, that's what it fucking was. That's what we were going to talk about at the top of the show. This is not as interesting a story to build up for an hour or two. But
yeah, sorry.
We were no, my bad. There was a situation last night. I'm like making dinner, doing dishes or some shit, and I hear the door open. Mimi gets home from work. She closes the door and she goes, Jamie, come here. And I think I'm in trouble, first of all. So of course I stand completely still. And I kind of like I look in the mirror that faces that way, like trying to see if I can see what the problem is, so I can brace myself for apologizing for it. And she's like, it just came in, it just walked in, and I'm like, okay, this one's not on me. So I round the corner.
It's your son. He comes walking in.
Oh God!
What are you doing here? We had an agreement.
He's so much more handsome than I am.
God damn it!
No, I'm jealous of him too. But
I bet he smokes weed all the time.
He's so cool. He listens to Matchbox 20 and lights a cigarette on the fucking sidewalk with a match, like a Strike Anywhere match off of some rocks. Anyway,
is that what cool guys do?
Yeah, like he lights a match off his shoe heel. And
the heel of his boot.
Yeah, sure. He leans against a muscle car and says, "Hey."
Anyway, moving on.
But yeah, I look over and Mimi's panicking and looking at the floor, and I get closer and I see there's this fucking hood cat just sitting in the middle of the living room. Like I've never seen this cat before. He's just like glaring at the other cats in the room, just like he looks like he's wondering why they're there. Like,
yeah, the fucking audacity. Like, hey, dude.
Yeah, like, nobody told me that I would have appreciated if somebody had mentioned these two fucks being here.
You know, some sort of heads up on the house that I'm breaking into and living in. Thank you.
Like, what the fuck, man? We had an agreement. But he's like, just, I don't know, he or she, whatever, is just staring at the other two cats, and they have no clue what to do. This was a surprise for everybody involved and shit. And Mimi is drifting somewhere between, this is a terrible situation, I don't know what to do about it, and also, I love her, can I keep her? And so this cat's like just losing her shit, going back and forth between the two cats that are flanking her and shit, and Mimi's like trying to figure out how to like hug it but also shoo it out the door at the same time. And I'm filming everything on Snapchat because what else am I going to do?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, but that was essentially the beginning of a long argument between me and Mimi of why we shouldn't have a third cat in the apartment, and how when a cat has a collar, it means it belongs to a family already.
That is true.
She nicknamed it Family because when I put it outside, I was turning my back on family.
Oh my God.
Like, you manipulative asshole.
You live in like a subdivision now, don't you? Or like a neighborhood sort of thing?
Yeah, we live in this it's weird because on one side of the street it looks really fancy, and then on our side of the street it does not. So it's like,
yeah.
So you never know what kind of characters you're going to encounter during this. So that's absolutely the kind of situation I would expect to happen, but I was not expecting specifically this long-haired calico to just appear in the front of the house and glare at our cats. It's an interesting situation. It's still not resolved. I don't know where that cat is, but Mimi's been like putting food in a bowl outside and it's been disappearing.
I don't know where that cat is.
Yeah, I don't know what it does during the day, but at night
it had a collar on.
It had a collar, and it like broke into our house. So like,
did it have a name on the collar, or was it just like a regular collar?
I was afraid to touch it, and I wasn't gonna let her touch it because God knows how she would have reacted if it had rejected her right off the bat.
Sure.
So yeah, I don't know. Very confusing situation. I didn't know how to handle it. It felt like a metaphor. I just can't figure out for what yet.
It's for accepting Jesus Christ into your life.
No, who let it in here?
Damn it, what are you doing? I already got two other Jesuses.
I was about to smoke some weeds.
Don't say that.
Oh, I was about to pull some. I was gonna get lifted on marijuana. Isn't it like? It's a point of contention now to call it that, right? That's racist.
I saw that shit. Yeah,
that's racist too.
That is absolute horse shit.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, it's like I get the history behind it, but come on, no.
Yeah, dude, meet me halfway.
No. But anyway, fucking heck. Well, boys and girls, I think that's a good enough time as any to call it a night. I gotta go do some fucking busy work, which I'll ultimately abandon in 15 minutes of doing it. So
yeah, you're very excited about it.
I have to do some progress on it at least. Mm-hmm. But anyway, yeah, you got any final closing notes for the boys and girls?
Final closing notes are: if you're under 21, do as much illegal shit as you can.
Oh no, wait, no, don't.
Because the consequences are much less severe now.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, go to all the shows you can go to and try some drugs and get drunk once in a while. Who gives a shit?
In safe situations, because I know a lot of people.
In all situations.
Oh goddamn! Oh no, we're responsible for somebody's bad life.
What about you, man? You got any sound advice? Not negating what I just said.
Well, I would appreciate it if someone's made it this far into the podcast. I want you to go down in the comment section and kind of give
Don't
me.
do this shit. What are you doing?
I want to like and subscribe and come back, watch our new video.
Hit the bell or something. I don't know what the fuck YouTubers say.
But go down in the comments. Tell me your experience in relation to what we talked about. Like, how do you experience life in situations of like, what's it like to experience something that you weren't expecting, or like, how do you fucking process social situations, or
do you have any regrets about not doing drugs as a teenager?
And if you have any recommendations for how I should handle this quarter life crisis, go ahead and drop it down in the comments. And everybody ironically says smash the like button. I won't. But anyway, thanks for joining us on this journey into our brains, and I guess we'll see y'all next week.
Yeah. Oh, also, sorry we didn't do 2 last week. We said we were going to, and we fucking forgot. So.
Hey, that's all right.
I've
forgiven myself already.
Yeah, that's really what's most important, how I feel about it.
I was too busy not doing drugs.
It does take up all my time lately.
I've been so swamped.
All right, man. Well, I hear you're getting a phone call, so I'll let you go.
All right, folks. Have a good night. So long.
Later. Catch you guys. Goodbye.
Catch you guys. Goodbye. That's good. That's our outro from now on. Catch you guys. Goodbye.
All right, dude. I'll catch you later.
All right, man. Peace.